Hey, what's up, Dylan? This is going to be a somewhat quick demo for you for your darked out Obiwan OWK1 Apprentice Saber with a Goth Master Chassis that we have flipped around somehow. Let's go take a look. Hey, what's up, Dylan? Let's go over your Dark Side Concept Obiwan Saber. This was a huge challenge for me. I don't mind saying it. Anytime you have to do a master chassis, that is a challenge within itself. You wanted this flipped around, but we'll talk about that here in a second. First off, let's talk about the outside. This was very nicely powder coated by my buddy Christopher Royal over at Royal Custom Armory. Not only did he do the powder coating, but he did it super quick. So, you know, even though his books were full, he went ahead and he took this commission on for you. And I thought that was really cool. So this came out very sleek. All right, it is a 2-button setup. So this, what used to be your brass button, you asked specifically that I made sure that I sent that, so I did. It's now powder coated black, but it's your power switch, and this is your auxiliary switch. One thing to note about your auxiliary switch, if you have this screwed down all the way and you try to actuate it, you're not going to hit the switch. So you need to back it up until you find that sweet spot where you're actually hitting it. You can feel the tactile feel there. All right, so just be careful for that. Don't go screwing that in all the way like this, and you won't hit the switch. All right, so about right there. So this has the master chassis kit, so it came with the stock PCB in there. You and I had talked about, you know, at first I kind of messaged you and I was like, I may need to send this back. I don't know that I can do what you're wanting me to do cleanly. But you and I spoke on the phone, and you know, after speaking to you, I really wanted to make this happen for you. I did tell you I was going to have to pull some whoop-de-whoops on the inside to make it work, and it sounded like that was something you were okay with, so that's what I did, and I'll show you that here in a second. For now, this is normally, this brass piece that you can see in here is normally the battery cover that would be on the other side, but I took that, I cut it down, I cut some length off of it, I cut some of the sides off of it so that I could fit it down in here. I removed that chrome plate. Let me go get it real quick. So normally on the inside here, you would have this chrome piece sitting there, so that's what you would see from the inside grill, right? Kept that removed, glued that in place, put some diffusion material over it. There's also a 10-pixel accent strip underneath the diffusion. So I did send you a short video, but we're going to fire it up again. All right. To get to your chassis, you want to unscrew this guy. To save you time and not have to have a tool every time you want to take this off, I do take this screw and I glue it into the chassis with some CA glue so that this essentially becomes one piece. Otherwise, you would need a you know, an Allen wrench to come in here and unscrew that. So that's what that is right now, one piece. Once you do that, you can take this and you can slide it over so this thing just swivels. All right, you can see your crystal chamber right there. If you want to get to your board, which you probably will, you're going to have to push down on this crystal chamber as you very carefully move this handle back. All right, let me do this. Slide this back. You can pull this up and you can pull this other brass piece up. They're on magnets and your board is located right there. There are a ton of wires underneath these two guys. More so than normal because typically, you know, the wires would go right here, right underneath the board tray, and it would come to right here. I had to move those wires in order to make this work. So now most of the wires come through this side right here and through the side of the crystal chamber and down underneath the crystal chamber. So it is very, very tight. I did have to come through here and I had to Dremel this off a little bit in order to make that work. All right, because you know, basically you have a small inner diameter on the handle, you have a larger diameter for the actual swivel piece. This swivel piece is 1.18 inches in diameter, ID, by the way. But since all that is reversed, I had to come in here and I had to do some Dremel work. All right, spring size, your negative here. The one thing that's going to hold this battery in place, because the chassis is so thin, is going to be the actual handle. So when you go to put this battery in, be very careful. You're going to have to hold it down. Whoops. While you hold it down, you're going to want to slide this over it. You're going to need 2 hands. So slide it over there and then carefully bring this handle up just like that. It is such a tight fit in there that literally this shroud right here is what's holding the battery down onto the contacts. It's never going to move on you once you do that. All right, but you swivel it until you line up that hole right there. Come over here, put your Covertech in it, and now you've essentially locked everything in place. So now you've got, if I turn this light off, you can see you've got kind of a slow scroll going on here. If we hit power, it ramps up. And then you got twist off. There is a copy of the config file on the SD card and you're running my sound font. Please take note that you never want to put the battery in that chassis unless you have both of the crystal chamber pieces in. The reason for that is because the chassis that I had to design is very, very thin. The one that came with the kit is printed out of SLS material. It would have been cool to have that as well. I don't have an SLS machine here because I don't have an extra 50 grand, but this is printed out of black carbon fiber, but it is super thin. So all the pressure when you're putting that battery in, it goes and butts up against those 2 crystal chamber pieces. If you don't do that, or if you try to put the battery in without those pieces in, you're going to break the chassis. All right, so make sure those brass crystal chamber pieces are all the way in before you ever put the battery in, and you should be good to go. All right, now this is set for a 1-inch diameter blade. So we're going to come over here, put our blade in, lock our blade down. You're going to notice that you have 2 grub screws. You've got one here that's your actual blade retention, and this one down here. Don't mess with this one. This is what holds that chassis piece in. That's got your board and your 2 switches. So that's tightened up where it needs to be. Leave that one alone. All right, but when we lock a blade in, we're good to go. Auxiliary. Blade lock up. Soundtrack. All right. Long press to turn it on, long press to turn it off. And that is basically how that Saber operates. So we're going to break it back down real quick and I'll show you how to take the battery out. When you open up the shroud, the outer handle shroud is what I'm talking about. When you open this up, the battery pretty much comes out on its own. But we were going to want to take that out. Slide this over. And then come back a little bit with it and bring the battery out. All right. A ton of stuff going on in there. And it wasn't meant really to hold an LED. It's really the LED strip that did it for me. If I was to just put that brass piece under there, I would have had more chassis material. I could have done things a little bit differently, but we really wanted to make that light up when we talked about it, right? So in order for me to do that, I had to put the brass in there. I had to put a layer of diffusion in there, and then I had to put a 10 pixel accent strip on there, and then I had to put the chassis on top. So a lot of stuff going on, but we'll probably never, if anyone had asked me to do this again, I would say no. So, but I'm happy that this came out. Let me know if you have any questions. I do hope that you like the way it came out, and I will get this out in the mail to you tomorrow. Thanks.